Tanking's good, tanking's bad, it's ruining the league, it's good for the league. Everyone's talking about tanking right now because of the recent things that Adam Silver has been talking about, and I want to share some opinions on tanking that I think you guys might want to hear. And if you haven't heard anything about what's going on, Adam Silver has been talking about tanking a lot recently, and he has said, are we seeing tanking behavior that is worse this year than seen in recent memory? He says yes. And then he has this long yap quote about in the olden days, it was just an understanding. And now he thinks with modern analytics that the incentives are misaligned with tanking. And he has even gone as far to already fine teams like the Jazz for $500K. And he also fined the Indiana Pacers for $100K on tanking and sitting players that are healthy in the fourth quarter or just in games in general. And if you want to see the official statement said by the NBA, they said that they have been fined $500K for sitting Lauri Markkanen and Jaren Jackson Jr. in back-to-back games in the fourth quarter, and they did not return to the game, and they were able to play, but they didn't play him because they were tanking. They want to lose to get higher lottery odds. And you can see, yeah, Jaren Jackson Jr. only plays 25. Wait, the Jazz won the game? Okay, I mean, what? And then Lauri Markkanen plays 25 minutes, and okay, I mean, that doesn't seem like that egregious. But ratings man needs his ratings, and he hates it when the star players are sitting, even though if they played those players, it's actually only a detriment to the team, and that's what we're about to get into right now. Teams that have tanked and been successful. Let's look at the tippy top of the Western Conference, looked at as the better conference out of the East and the West, and we got the Thunder and the Spurs. Okay, what do these two teams have in common over the last 5 years? And so before the Thunder were the top team that we know that they are today, in 2020-2021, they only won 22 games. Best player, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, only played half of the games that year in about 35 games, and he was ruled out ever since March with a right foot injury and did not play a single game after that. And then the year after that, 21-22, they only won 24 games, were 14th in the Western Conference. This year, there was actually 82 games, but Shai would only play 56 of the 82 games, and as you can see here, near the end of the season, late March, he's ruled out again, not playing any of these games, And because of their poor performance in 2021-22, they were able to draft Chet Holmgren with their own pick. And the year prior, they were able to draft Josh Giddey with their own pick, who they later flipped for Alex Caruso, who helped them win a championship, but they were still the 1 seed when they had Josh Giddey. But anyways, those 2 years where they were tanking, they got top picks that helped them become the team that they are today. And all while sitting their best player near the end of the season, not just in the fourth quarter, but in the entire game. Now let's look at the 2 seed, the San Antonio Spurs. In 2022-23, they win 22 games, and what did they do before this season? They traded their best player for a bunch of picks, almost like they're planning to tank. And who was the Spurs' best player this year? Yes, it was Keldon Johnson, who near the end of the season was missing games left and right for random things, but look what he's dropping in these games. Yo, quick shout out to Keldon Johnson, but yeah, he's getting benched for a neck sprain and then some injury management. Trading your best player before the season for a bunch of picks and then having to bench your best player who is a tank commander in Keldon Johnson at the end of the season seems like pretty blatant tanking to me, but it got them Wembanyama, and we all know what happened after that. The Spurs were just bad the next year, and then now look where they are now, the 2 seed. And did we hear any crying from Adam Silver during these tanking years? No, actually, he had no problem with the Thunder or the Spurs tanking. And where are these teams now? Like we said, they are top 2 in the West and probably drive most of the engagement in the NBA with players like Shai, players like Wemby. These players who are benefiting from a tanking team are actually benefiting Adam Silver with the ratings. And that's just looking at the top 2 teams in the Spurs and the Thunder. The Rockets, if you guys know what the Rockets did after they traded James Harden, the wow factor Rockets tanked, got Jalen Green, Tari Eason, Jabari Smith Jr., Alperen Şengün, all these players from the tank to go to the 2 seed last year into a top 4 seed this year. And we have another example of another 1 seed who tanked for Cade Cunningham back in those years, and then they also tanked, got Jalen Duren, got Asar Thompson. They also did have an injury with Cade, and they were just bad in a couple of years, but regardless, they were tanking, and now they're the 1 seed driving in lots of ratings for Adam Silver. The dark side of tanking. The first team I really want to talk about is going to be the Utah Jazz, because in recent light, obviously we talked about them getting fined and everything, but we need to talk about this team in their recent tanking years. They have been getting extremely unlucky. It all started when they traded Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert in that same offseason two different teams, and then they were going in to this next year, and everyone knew that they were gonna be tanking. And the Jazz would actually have a hot start to the season, which would end up hurting them as they would end 12th in the West. And when you tank, you usually want to end in the bottom two, maybe 14th or 15th. And so their lottery odds weren't going to be that good this season. But you think, oh, were they playing their players? They were ethically tanking? No, their all-star starter, Lauri Markkanen, would not play that many games to end the season, and they still ended as the 12 seed. So you can see why they would be scarred a little bit for ending too high in the lottery. And where would their pick end up? They wouldn't jump, they wouldn't fall, they would be right at 9, which is where their odds were at. They would draft Taylor Hendricks, and then they would get Keontae George and Bryce Sensabaugh from some of the trades that they did. And so after year one of the tank, okay, it's looking decent, but they didn't have a Spurs thing or even a Pistons thing where they got the number 1 pick. They got the 9th pick. So yeah, it's going to be a little bit harder for them to get this tank going. And then so the next year, the Jazz would tank again, ending again 12th in the Western Conference. They're not fully tanking. They're not losing all of these games. Maybe you might think they try to win some games at the beginning of the season. They might try to win some games in the fourth quarter during these years. And yes, they would bench Lauri Markkanen to end the year, all these games, because they're realizing, shoot, we're ending 12th again. We need a higher pick than this. This isn't good. And the odds for the Jazz going in would be the 8th odds for the number 1 pick, the 8th best odds, and they would end with the 10th pick, getting Cody Williams, who at the time was actually a really good prospect. Probably should have picked Buzelis now that we're looking at it, but at the time, you can't hate on them for picking Cody Williams. But okay, back-to-back tanking years, and we have a 9th pick and a 10th pick from the tank from the Jazz. And we see the Spurs get the 4th pick the year after they get the Rookie of the Year and the number 1 pick, and Wembanyama, we're giving them the 4th pick. Is this rigged? I don't know. And the Jazz were like, screw it. We've learned our lesson. We were the 12th seed twice in a row. We got no help from the rigged lottery and Adam Silver, which is definitely rigged, by the way. And so now we're going to be the 15th best team in the West, which is the last best team in the West. We're the worst team in the West. Our lottery odds are going to be goated. And if Adam Silver really wants the Jazz to stop tanking, well, we have a guy right here in Cooper Flagg who can take them immediately out of the tanking thing with everything they've gotten from these picks and these trades that they've done. Cooper Flagg would be the icing on the cake, and the Jazz can go back into being a winning team. And we're going into this draft lottery not taking any chances. We have the number 1 odds at the number 1 pick. Worst case scenario, we get the 2nd or the 3rd pick, but I'm feeling good about this one. If I'm a Jazz fan, we're getting a top 3 pick in this stacked draft class. So sorry, Jazz, the lottery's rigged, so we got to fulfill that order with the Mavericks with the Luka trade. They traded Luka to the Lakers, and now we got to give them the number 1 pick. That was the deal. For the 2nd pick, the Spurs have Wemby. They haven't really been living up to the hype as a team, but Wemby's been good, so we need to give them the 2nd pick, give Wemby some more help. 3rd pick, we're going to give it to the Sixers because, Embiid, it's Philly. We need to give Embiid some more help. They got Maxey there. We need to give Maxey some more help. The 4th pick, Lauri Markkanen or LaMelo Ball. Who's really going to give me more ratings if they're better? Probably LaMelo. So we're going to give the 4th pick to the Hornets, and the Jazz, after being the worst team in the league for multiple years, you can have the 5th pick, actually. And then this next year when you're tanking again, because, I haven't really given you a top pick ever, when you tank again this year after you trade for somebody that you finally have the assets to trade for, we're actually going to fine you for tanking, which everyone else has been doing all these years, including you. But because you're playing your players and then benching them in the 4th and not just sitting them out, we're going to give you a fine. And then I know we touched on this already, but I'm going to retouch. Yeah, Pacers, you're also getting a $100K fine, even though your best player and the guy who basically led you to the finals has a torn Achilles, isn't playing at all, and this is obviously a rebuild year, and you traded Ben Mathurin. Yeah, we're also going to fine you $100K just because we just want all the ratings we can get, and if you're benching players, I'm going to be mad. Even though people have been doing it for so long, I'm actually just going to get mad about it now. Is tanking necessary? Yes, absolutely. Tanking is necessary for the NBA to continue, because if a team is mid or bad, would you rather them try to win as many games as possible, be mid, be the 10 seed, lose in the play-in, and get the 10th pick? Basically what the Jazz were doing those 2 years before they went all out for the number 1 pick and then got the 5th pick. Would you rather have teams do that, or would you rather have teams fully tank, get the number 1 pick, and then be really, really, really good in the coming years, just like we talked about with the Thunder and with the Spurs? It's obvious which one is better for the league. I have friends that are Bulls fans that have been begging the team to go into an actual rebuild and not just be mid every single year and get a mid pick every single year. They want them to just blow it up, and we're finally seeing them kind of do that, because they know that if they're just mid every single season, they will never be able to contend. They need to bottom out and get top picks in order to rebuild the team. please pause and read this tweet from Mark Cuban if you haven't already. But basically it says that the NBA should embrace tanking. And the real issue is that the NBA is pricing families out of the games, and they should worry more about a parent that can't bring their kids to the game than tanking, because tanking isn't the issue here. If you do this, Adam Silver, we are absolutely cooked. Adam Silver says he would consider ending the NBA draft and making rookies free agents. What? Like this would be absolutely terrible for almost every single team in the league that's a small market team. As a fan of a small market team, I'm a Blazers fan. One of the only ways we can get players is from the draft and from trades. We are not a free agent destination. No one's going to sign here. If you take away the draft, you're already taking away 50% of the way we build our players from. You might as well give all of the top prospects contracts to the Lakers, the Knicks, the Celtics, the Heat. It's absolutely G's for teams like the Blazers, teams like the Grizzlies, who tank for their best picks and then pick their picks and then make trades for vets. That's how those teams are good, and they will not be good ever again if Adam Silver abolishes the draft. And what do you really want the Jazz to do here? I'm sorry I'm all over the place, but this Jazz thing, he's finding the Jazz for sitting Lauri Markkanen and Jaren Jackson Jr. Like we looked at, they tanked for 2 years, but they were not tanking fully. So they were the 12 seed, they get a top 9, top 10 pick. That's not good enough. You need a number 1, a number 2, a number 3 pick, like we saw with the Spurs getting the number 1 pick, immediately puts them back, right? The Jazz then fully tank, and then Adam Silver gives them the 5th pick. What do you really want them to do? You want them to just be mid, be the 11 seed, be the 10 seed, lose in the play-in, get the 9 and 10th pick every single year? They'll never be good if they do that. They'll be like the Bulls, who are just mid every single year because the Bulls will never go into a full tank rebuild. And like Mark Cuban said in that tweet, the fans like hope. If tanking is abolished and they get rid of the draft, the fans don't have anything to hope for anymore. You need to hope for, maybe we can get the number 1 pick. Cooper Flagg, Darren Peterson, AJ DeBonsta, Cam Boozer. These are players that maybe we can have because we're bad now and we can be good later. But tanking is absolutely necessary for the league. And Adam Silver, please do not get rid of the draft, man, please. But that's all I have to say about this. If you have any comments about tanking or anything, please let me know in the comments, and check out my channel, check out my other videos. Thank you so much for 2.6K subs, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.